a slave, a bounty hunter, and a blood-soaked plan to burn slavery to the ground. Welcome to the most explosive Western you've never seen coming. In the Deep South, 1858, a line of shackled slaves trudges through the darkness, among them Django. His back is scarred, his feet blistered, and his spirit almost broken. Then, a peculiar wagon appears from nowhere, topped with a giant wobbling tooth. Riding it is Dr. King Schultz, a smooth-talking German dentist turned bounty hunter. He isn't here for dentistry, he's here for Django. Schultz approaches the slave traders and asks to purchase Django. They laugh, dismiss him, and one even reaches for his rifle. Bad move. Schultz draws first, shooting one trader in the head and a horse in the neck, because the horse was part of the threat. Calmly, Schultz turns to Django and politely apologizes for the bloodbath. Then he offers Django freedom with a catch. Schultz needs Django's help identifying 3 wanted men, brutal overseers from Django's past. In exchange, he offers Django's freedom, cash, and the chance to reunite with his lost wife, Broomhilda. For Django, it's an impossible deal to refuse. For the first time, Django is unchained, literally. Schultz gives him a horse and lets him choose his own clothes. Django picks something bright, flamboyant, and entirely out of place in the antebellum South. To white eyes, it's an outrage. A black man riding a horse like a nobleman. To Django, it's power. They ride into a town where Django is the only black man not in chains. The townsfolk stop and stare. Schultz marches them into a whites-only saloon, orders 2 beers, and drinks casually beside Django. The bartender flees to get the sheriff. When the law shows up, Schultz doesn't argue. He shoots him, right there, in front of the townsfolk. But this wasn't murder. Schultz reveals his bounty license. The sheriff was a wanted criminal worth $200. By the time the real authorities arrive, Schultz is not a suspect. He's a government-paid assassin. Django watches in awe. He's never seen a white man treat him like an equal, or use the law as a weapon against white criminals. Schultz sees potential in Django, not just as a tracker, but as a partner. He asks Django, "What would you do if you were free?" Django doesn't hesitate. "Find my wife." And just like that, the mission changes. It's no longer about money. It's about love. And it's about vengeance. Django and Schultz head out, guns loaded, and plan set, track down the Brittle brothers, overseers who once whipped Django and cruelly tore him from his wife, Broomhilda. Their last known location? A plantation owned by Big Daddy Bennett. To blend in, Schultz poses as a wealthy investor in Mandingo fighters, brutal gladiator-style slaves. Django, dressed in an outrageous blue suit of his choosing, is his supposed expert. A black man on a horse, dressed finer than most white men, makes every jaw drop. Django wears it with pride. Big Daddy doesn't like it at all. But the prospect of a hefty slave sale changes his tone. He reluctantly invites Schultz and Django into his home, hoping to seal the deal. Meanwhile, Django walks the plantation with eyes as sharp as knives. He spots a woman being prepped for punishment, bound and terrified. The man with the whip? One of the Brittles. Rage boils in Django's chest. This isn't part of the plan, but justice won't wait. As the whip cracks through the air, Django steps forward and draws. Boom! The Brittle brother falls, a hole in his chest. Another reaches for a weapon. Too late. Django shoots again, then lashes the third with his whip, slamming the past back into his oppressor's face. The black field hands stop in stunned silence. No one has ever seen a black man kill a white man and live to tell the story. Schultz rushes in just in time to back Django. A final shot from his pistol finishes the job. Big Daddy and his crew come charging, but Schultz flashes his bounty license. Every man they killed was legally wanted. Furious, Big Daddy has no choice but to let them leave. But Django knows that the insult won't go unanswered. Sure enough, Big Daddy and a posse ride out that night, torches in hand, hoods over their heads. But Schultz has prepared. The doctor's wagon is rigged with explosives. As the raiders approach, Schultz fires a single shot from the ridge. Boom! Fire lights up the night sky. The men scatter. Big Daddy tries to flee, but Django picks up a rifle, steadies his aim, and drops him with a clean shot. It's Django's first taste of vengeance, and it won't be his last. Snow covers the hills, and blood stains the drifts. During the harsh winter months, Django and Dr. King Schultz travel from town to town. A bounty poster in hand, each mission pushing Django deeper into a world where bullets settle debts and justice comes at a price. Schultz trains Django with care. He teaches him how to aim, when to shoot, and, more importantly, who deserves to die. Django's draw becomes faster, and his confidence sharpens. He's no longer a freed man pretending. He's becoming a legend. But the violence isn't always clean. One target travels with his young son. Django hesitates, triggering trembling. Schultz, ever the realist, reminds him of the man's crimes. Theft, murder, worse. The world doesn't care about your morals, he says, only your aim. Django fires. It isn't just skill that grows. So does the bounty money. Schultz splits everything evenly, keeping his promise. Django starts to dress the part. Fine jackets, a better horse, and a cool, deadly calm. They ride together, one white, one black, both outlaws with a cause. But Django's heart never strays from one goal, finding Broomhilda. Schultz finally tells him it's time. He's tracked the records. She was sold to a cruel plantation owner named Calvin Candie. The place is infamous, Candyland, a haven of horror for slaves and a playground for sadists. You can't just walk up and ask for a woman back, not from a man like Candie. Schultz knows this, so he devises a scheme. They'll pose as wealthy buyers of Mandingo fighters, slaves trained to battle to the death for their owner's entertainment. Schultz will play the businessman. Django, the black slaver who knows the trade. It's a dangerous gamble, but it might be their only chance to get close enough to buy Broomhilda legally and get her out alive. Django agrees, no hesitation. The act begins. They ride south. Schultz polishes his lines. Django practices cold indifference. Candyland awaits. But nothing can prepare them for the evil they're about to face. Calvin Candie's plantation isn't just large, it's grotesque. Candyland reeks of blood money and false southern charm. At the gate, Django plays his role flawlessly. Dressed in rich fabric and cold disdain, he walks taller than most black men ever dared. But the other slaves look at him with disgust. To them, Django's a traitor. Dr. King Schultz, posing as the buyer, smooth talks Candie's lawyer and is soon granted an audience with the man himself. Calvin Candie is everything Schultz warned about, and worse. He's polished, flamboyant, and completely deranged, obsessed with phrenology and gladiator fights. He welcomes them with a smile full of malice. Inside the grand mansion, the reality hits hard. Black men fight to the death in blood-stained parlors while white elites sip wine and place bets. One gladiator kills the other with a hammer under Candie's watchful eye. Schultz flinches. Django does not. That's part of the plan. Django must appear ruthless, a man who profits from the suffering of his own people. So when a slave tries to escape and Candie unleashes the dogs, Django remains silent. Schultz wants to intervene, but Django coldly advises him not to. One wrong word and everything could collapse. It's a brutal performance, but Django knows what's at stake. Broomhilda. They dine with Candie that night, seated at a lavish table while enslaved women serve them. Django sees her, Broomhilda. She's thinner now, quieter, but she's alive. Schultz asks her to serve them during the meal under the pretense that she speaks German, which he also does. Alone in his room, he speaks to her in whispers, prepping her for what's next. Django enters quietly. The moment their eyes meet, time freezes. Broomhilda faints. But emotions can't unravel the plan. Not yet. Later, at the dinner table, Broomhilda steals glances at Django. It's risky, and someone notices. Stephen, the house butler and Candie's loyal enforcer, suspects something. He watches Broomhilda. Then Django. Something isn't right. Back in the kitchen, Stephen presses her for answers. She denies everything. But Stephen has survived too long to miss the truth. He runs to Candie. And just like that, the mask begins to crack. Stephen bursts into Calvin Candie's study with a whispered warning. Django and Broomhilda aren't strangers. They're husband and wife. Candie freezes, then laughs, not because it's funny, but because he's been outplayed, and he hates being fooled. He re-enters the dining room with a smile, carrying a small wooden box. Inside it, the bleached skull of an old family servant, once a loyal slave, is hidden. He carefully places it on the table, as if it were a relic. Then, Candie launches into a twisted monologue. He talks about slave loyalty, about 3 dimples in the skull's occipital bone, and uses it as grotesque proof of black people's natural servitude. His voice drips with rage, masked as science. He knows the truth now. He knows Schultz and Django came not for business, but for love. The mask is off. Candie demands $12,000 for Broomhilda and forces Schultz to pay it on the spot or see her slaughtered in front of them. Schultz, seething, signs the papers with icy calm. The deal is done. But the venom lingers. After dinner, Candie smugly insists on a handshake to seal the transaction. Schultz refuses. You had my signature. You don't have my hand, he says. Candie won't let it go. He threatens Broomhilda again. Cornered, Schultz smiles faintly, steps forward, and pulls a hidden derringer from his sleeve. One shot, right into Candie's chest. The smug smile vanishes from Candie's face, and chaos erupts. Stephen screams. White men draw guns. A bullet crashes into Schultz, throwing him backward and killing him instantly. And Django? Django flips the table. He grabs a pistol and lets it sing. The air fills with smoke and screams. Bullets fly. Men fall. He ducks, rolls, and fires again. No hesitation. This isn't bounty work. This is war. Django fights like a man possessed, until the numbers overwhelm him. Stephen's men grab Broomhilda and put a gun to her head. Django freezes. He's lost the moment. They capture him, beat him, strip him, and hang him upside down. This time, he won't die quickly. They have a different punishment in mind. Django dangles upside down, stripped and bleeding. A blade gleams nearby, ready to end him in the most dehumanizing way possible. But Stephen intervenes. Not out of mercy, but cruelty. A quick death would be too kind. Instead, he arranges for Django to be sold to a mining company, where he'll rot in darkness, shoveling rock until his body gives out. A fate worse than death, Stephen sneers. Chained and humiliated, Django is marched with a group of slaves toward the mines. No horse, no voice, no hope, at least that's what they think. But Django still has one weapon left, his tongue. During a rest break, he strikes up a conversation with the clueless guards. He spins a convincing tale. He's not a slave, but a government bounty hunter, caught in a mix-up. He's on a mission, and the men who caught him are now dead. If the guards let him go and help him finish the job, they'll share a massive reward. To sweeten the lie, he shows them an old wanted poster from a previous mission. It works. Greed blinds them. One even confirms Django's claims after recalling seeing him ride freely with a white man doctor, King Schultz. They hand him a gun. Bad move. Django wastes no time. The moment his fingers close around the weapon, he turns and shoots the first guard in the chest. The second drops before he can lift his rifle. The third runs, but Django's shot sends him collapsing into the dirt. Blood on the rocks. Freedom bought with 3 bullets. Django rides again. He heads back to Candyland, dressed in a stolen uniform, saddlebags full of dynamite, and vengeance in his heart. He buries the explosives beneath the main house, sets traps, and waits. Night falls. The plantation's guards relax. They don't know the devil's already in the house. And in the shed? Broomhilda waits, chained, terrified, but still alive. Not for long. Django storms the gates of Candyland like a ghost of vengeance. The guards don't even get to stand. 1, 2, 3, gone before they know who's firing. He frees Broomhilda, crumpled in a locked shed, her eyes wide with disbelief. She rushes into his arms, trembling, but alive. But there's no time to rest. Inside the mansion, the final trap is set. Django climbs to the upper floor, loaded rifle in hand, watching from above as Stephen returns from the cemetery, smug, unaware, surrounded by the last dregs of Calvin Candie's empire. He opens fire, one shot for each man who mocked him, for every scar on Broomhilda's back, for Dr. King Schultz. The plantation erupts into chaos. Screams, gunfire, and explosions tear through the house. But Django's aim is clean, every bullet deliberate. One by one, Candie's men fall, until only Stephen remains. The old butler stares him down, still defiant, still clinging to the fantasy of superiority. His cane drops. He stands straight, revealing the limp was fake all along. The act, the loyalty, the hatred, it was all a performance. "You ain't got the nerve," Stephen spits. Django smiles. One shot to the legs, not fatal, but crippling. Then he straps the dynamite to the walls and lights the fuse. Stephen screams at him through the flames, but Django's already outside, leading Broomhilda to a fresh horse under a sky full of fire. The Candyland mansion explodes behind them, smoke curling like a twisted monument to the end of a brutal legacy. They ride into the night. No more chains. No more masters. No more pretending. Just Django, Broomhilda, and the open road ahead. Django Unchained is a blood-soaked, genre-bending showdown that had critics and fans locked in from the first trigger pull. Rotten Tomatoes hailed it as bold, bloody, and wildly entertaining, giving Quentin Tarantino full marks for turning a spaghetti western into a revenge-fueled spectacle. The New York Times praised the film's daring tone, saying it walks the tightrope between horrific history and explosive pulp fantasy with style and purpose. Empire magazine called Jamie Foxx's performance iconic and noted that Christoph Waltz steals every scene as the smooth-talking bounty hunter with a moral compass. And Rolling Stone's Peter Travers said it best. It's Tarantino unleashed, and you'll be talking about it long after the final shot is fired. Tarantino originally wanted Will Smith to play Django, but after turning it down, the role went to Jamie Foxx, who brought an intense, no-nonsense presence to the screen. Foxx didn't just act, he used his own horse, Cheetah, in the film, making Django's cowboy swagger all the more authentic. And it paid off. Django Unchained won 2 Academy Awards, including Best Original Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for Waltz, sealing its legacy as a modern classic. Django Unchained is more than a revenge tale. It's a thunderous reclamation of dignity. From the first shattered shackle to the final explosion, Django's journey tears through a world built on cruelty, exposing every injustice and leaving no sin unpunished. But this story isn't just about firepower. It's about loyalty, love, and the unbreakable will to be free. Django doesn't just rescue Broomhilda. He rewrites the narrative. In a world where black men were seen as property, he became the judge, the jury, and the liberator. And as Candyland burns to ash behind him, Django doesn't just ride off as a free man, but as a legend. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Tarantino's explosive epic, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let us know in the comments, what would you do if you were Django? Thanks for watching. Remember, the past can't be changed, but it can be blown sky high.